Hey everybody, how's it going today? We are talking about relationships. We are talking about the power struggle. Who here is in a relationship and you've seen there's a bit of a power struggle, a bit of like, well, you know, the woman says this and the man cowers down, or the man's really dominant and the woman's really like into herself and stuff. Well, today we are speaking to the amazing. So and here he is in 3, 2, 1. Booyah! Ah, I did it too early. Shame. Hey, dude, what's going on, buddy?
I'm sideways.
You are sideways. That's what I love about you.
All right.
How's it going, dude? You good?
Yeah, I'm very well. How you doing?
Yeah, really good, buddy. Really, really good. Enjoying lockdown, as it were. Growing.
I tell you what, I love the lockdown. Hold on, I'm just going to get my camera sorted.
No worries, bro. That's cool. I love the lockdown. I'm learning a little bit of French. I'm doing a lot more working out. I'm doing a lot more stuff online, which is good. I'm connecting with more people. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's good.
All right, that's it. I'm settled.
You good?
Good.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. Awesome, dude. Okay, so there's a bit of a theme with this, but before we go any further, I haven't seen you since the last time. How are things? What's going on?
Yeah, how long has it been? I think it's several months, right? So yeah, things are well.
Good.
So things are well. I tell you, the lockdown has been a gift. You know, I believe everything has a silver lining.
Yeah.
And the lockdowns what I've noticed is, allowed myself to slow down.
Yeah.
And look at things from a different perspective. And I've seen a lot of other people have done the same as well. That, not everyone, but a lot of people have just taken a different perspective to things as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, and I like that. I appreciate that. At the beginning, I would say I was a bit like, I think a lot of people were, because it was obviously the fear of the unknown. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know when it was going to end. It was just like, wow, like our mind always goes nuts. I mean, you know what the mind does when that happens. But eventually, it's kind of been normalized. We switch it around and think, you know what, let's use this. Let's use this time to actually benefit.
So what's the one big thing you've taken from this lockdown?
Say that again, sorry, mate.
What's the one big thing you've taken from this lockdown?
The simplest one. Okay, patience. I would have to say patience. Patience with people around me, patience with my dog who's barking now, patience through the whole journey, and patience with myself.
Okay, I like that one. That is a good one, actually. That is a good one.
Yeah, cheers,
patience,
bro.
Patience, yeah, it's either gonna grow your patience or it's gonna reduce your patience. So
yeah, 100%. And that's really funny we go on this, actually, because I think a huge key, not the key, but a huge key in relationships would be patience, especially with what's going on right now. So I don't know how you feel about that one.
Yeah, I think see, so my background is coming from doing a lot of relationship talks, relationship seminars, and workshops on relationships. It's because it was one of those things that I really struggled in. And and especially being a guy as well, relationship is something we want, but not necessarily that we work tirelessly on it. We really work on relationships. So what I've learned is that during the lockdown, there's a lot of people struggling with it. Because it's allow you to see what it would be like, what retirement would look like.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of people to see, actually, you know what, if I spend non-distracted time with someone, I wonder what that's like.
Yeah.
Non-distracted, because I remember we were talking last time, when two people hang out, they go to movies, they go to dinner, things like that, they work, and most of the time they'll come back together and they spend a very short time. But now you're there for months and then you got to work things out. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things as well that we take our own freedom for granted as well, and we take the fact that we can share our thoughts with loved ones or friends, close friends, that we can not kind of vent, but more explore ways of how to get better in a relationship. And obviously that's been taken away, that's been stolen from us. And to you kind of left with that one person that you are. Let's face it, I think society puts a lot of pressure on us, because it's like we come out of school and we get into our 20s and we're like saying, right now, after having no lessons or no worthwhile lessons at school, now you're expected to form a bond with one person, male or female, whatever, that you've fallen in love with, whatever that means. And now you're supposed to like create and form a relationship, a companionship, after having no lessons, and it's supposed to last for over 50 years. And then you're supposed to have like create a little bund of flesh, which is even more pressure. And it's like, whoa. And I think some people in this world give themselves a bit of a hard time.
I completely hear you. You know, it's given me a lot of food for thought as well. During the lockdown. One was, where does the need of a relationship come from? Where does the need for having children come from? All of these things, like like having kids. And if you study about the psychology, when I think there was a research done that when couples had children, the majority of the couples' happiness levels dropped. But yet we have this need to, procreate. So these are like primal needs that we have. And for the last few months, it's been so interesting studying evolutionary psychology. Seeing where actually the drivers are from, because like you said, there's so many drivers that we have.
Yeah,
power struggle is one of them. We have all these drivers that we have, and then just trying to kind of reverse engineer where did they start? How did they start? What formed them, and why were they formed?
Yeah.
And it's just realizing how that impacts us today is just incredible.
Yeah, it is obviously to procreate is very primal, isn't it? It's very, very, very caveman or cavewoman. But I think there's a lot of people on this planet that don't want to, which is fine. But some might be put under pressure from another relationship, society, religion, parents, beliefs, all of these things. And it's like, yeah, gosh, why, having a child, you're supposed to boost up your happiness and joy. But on some, I don't really know, but it's tough. I can imagine it's blooming tough to
I tell you what, those who've got kids right now in the lockdown, oh my God, I hear them. What are you doing? I'm drinking. But it's tough. It's tough because bless them, the kids. The kids themselves are pretty primal. Like if you look at children, their logical brain or their reasoning, rational prefrontal cortex hasn't really matured until they're 25.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, when you've got like 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds running around and they've got to spend time with each other. So if you have 2 kids or more and they've got to spend time and you've got to spend time, there's going to be a lot of personality clashes going on.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so how's things for you then? How are you managing the relationship? How are you managing all the interactions and connections?
Well, I extremely value hugs now. I haven't hugged my mom forever, nor my dad. And it would just, I completely take that for granted. Walking said dog and whatnot. But no, I think I would go as far as to say that it's good. I think I've found myself. I think I had to I had to understand my balance myself first, because at the beginning it was a bit like turbulent, I would say, relationship wise. But now it's like, okay, we're getting to know each other. But I think that's because the patience I've had to learn with myself. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I know. There's a gap here. Well, that's about it.
I do. Right, we're going to mind the gap signs, all right?
Yeah. But no, it's going really well. Thank you for asking, buddy. Really, really well. And and what I was thinking, because it was something kind of hit me recently. There's a lot of people that are going through this too. It's the I don't know if you've ever had this or coached clients in regard to this, but kind of like the power struggle. I really, I don't know why, because I'm I'm in a very happy relationship and I don't need to go out there and look for anybody else. But in regard to power struggle, for me, my inexperienced mind would say that at the beginning it's woman's in control, because the man is obviously trying to impress the woman, as it were. But not in all cases. I'm just speaking generally. Not in all cases by any stretch of the imagination. And then it kind of shifts, and then it shifts back, and it's a bit like this. I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and they're saying, "Oh, you've got to make sure you've got the power, otherwise they'll be in control. You've got to make sure that you're, the polar opposites, the masculine energy's got to make sure they're there, because that's really attractive for the feminine energy." And I was just like, "Oh, I don't want to. I just want to be. I don't want to think about that."
Yeah. Okay. So it's such a great topic as well. That it's not more of a power. It's not more about powering someone. It's about there's a difference between dominant or dominating. So a dominance, and there's a difference between dominance and controlling. So whereas dominance is usually, I would say, pretty much from my experience and the work I've done, and evolutionary wise, dominance, when a man is dominant, he's attractive.
Yeah.
When he's controlling, that's a different thing. Okay, that's yeah. So that's completely different. That kind of narcissism, that can control. That's a different driver. Now, when a guy is dominant or being dominant, it's not about he's dominating another person, but he's able to dominate his life, control his, manage his life, dominate the evil thoughts or the power struggles that he has internally. He's able to move through that and dominate those parts of him. Slay that dragon. That's the dominance. That's the dominance that women want to see from men. It's highly attractive, and sit there. I'm like, no fucking way am I tolerating X, Y, and Z. But for my own self, when I do that for my own self, then I can do that with other people. It's highly attractive. And I completely hear about, I just want to be. Now, there's a lot of pressure on us for men to lead in order to create that kind of like that, keep that attraction open. And that when that attraction is open, when masculine and feminine, there's a lot of pressure on. And and speaking of pressure, I was thinking about this. So there's a lot of pressure on men to be able to be the leader, to be the masculine, to be the leader, not the controller, but the leader, because that's highly attractive. You will hear a lot of women say that's a really attractive trait in a man.
Yeah.
Then I was thinking, ladies, women have it tough too, because equally they have their pressure, but it's a different pressure they have. Now, I've coached many women as well, and the struggle that they have is, aesthetics, being, to be seen, visually. Visual is one of the things that women really put out, and it's very evolutionary as well. It's very evolutionary. It's not we do it consciously. Men, we're attracted to visual, and we're attracted to visual. So therefore, the woman makes herself visually attractive so she can connect with the alpha man or the leader who's going to be a good provider. So there's a lot of evolutionary stuff going on in there, which is fascinating.
Yeah, you're dead right. Talking about randomly, I don't think they may connect. I'm not sure, but two pressures for a man, it'll be this is very attractive. This is what I've experienced. As in me being the man, not in a relationship with a man. I've got a girlfriend. But what I've experienced is if I just say, oh, hey, babe, make sure that you are free at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. Why? You'll find out. Just make sure you're free, and it's smart casual. So do what you want with that information, and we're going to go on a date. And then it's all mysterious and it's all taboo and it's all great. It's like, whoa. Instead of this, so what do you want to do Wednesday? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know, like I say something and then you don't agree with it, and then we have to go back to square one. Do you want to take away? Do you want to play cards? Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want? And it's just blah. But for a man point of view, it's very attractive for me to go, but I've got something planned. But, which works quite well. In regard to what you were saying with women, having the pressure of stimulating the male visual cues, as it were, it's hard because it's like, oh, am I doing this? Am I doing this for me? Am I doing this for them? Am I doing this because I need someone like this in my life, or do I need this? Why can't I be pretty naturally without any makeup? And what will my friends think? And what will feminists think? And what am I actually doing? And this world of fat shouldn't be here. But how do I get rid of my little side hips? And what's going on? Why do I not have a gap between my thighs? And blah, 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 blah. And it goes up on one. So it's a lot of pressure, isn't there? Oh, I just had to get off my chest.
You've done that well, Dale. I like that.
It's my gap. It's not the women. I'm just projecting.
Who is this person?
I listen.
Yeah, so we have a lot of pressures on ourselves, and we have that struggle as well.
Yeah.
And the biggest lesson, or the biggest power struggle comes from is people pleasing.
Yes. Well, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I've really kind of like been studying and learning and kind of like working on myself is people pleasing. And that's what my teaching is about, is no more people pleasing. No more people pleasing. The moment you start people pleasing, the moment you're going to start struggling in a lot of relationships, because you don't show up as you. You're there to please them, and people pleasing is manipulative. That's all it is. Because you're gonna, if you think about people pleasing, you are gonna adapt to whoever you're with in order to please them.
You are, aren't you?
Yeah. So people pleasing is manipulation, and also talking about manipulation. All humans are hardwired to manipulate. It's hardwired. It's not like we get taught it. It's hardwired. If you look at children, they manipulate non-stop. It doesn't stop when you just become like a certain age. Okay, so hardwiring. So I was looking at how we are hardwired, and if you look at the way we're hardwired, children manipulate. Adults manipulate. So manipulation is survival. And if you look at individual cells manipulate in order to survive. So if you think about it, manipulation has been around for not a few years. It's been around for hundreds of thousands, millions of years. And so as people pleasing came from the fact was, I want to make sure that if I in a tribe, I'm pleased by the tribe, I'm looked after by the tribe. Does the tribe approve of what I'm doing? This is where when you have that people pleasing coming in, this is where you have the approval seeking coming in. And then what happens is that we always have a struggle with this, because when we're people pleasing, what's the one thing that we do, or we start building up of?
What's the one thing we do when we people please? I think we lose identity with ourselves, don't we? We just want to make them happy and not us.
Yeah. So when we start building up and we start people pleasing, we start going, beyond what we need to go. We start building up resentment.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we start building up a resentment, and then what happens is, and then resentment shows up in the relationship. It's been pent up. So people pleasing, pent up resentment, and then resentment starts hitting. And that's when we start, seeing a lot of, okay, I gave so much, or I did so much. Now I have these expectations, and I want to take this back. So we start pulling, we start yanking, and then we start forcing, or we're saying, no, here's my boundary now. That my boundary didn't exist like a few months ago, but now, because I've got so much resentment, it's all built up, it's pent up. I didn't speak in the moment. Because I didn't speak in the moment, and now I've let it all go and build up, and then I just have a massive fit. And that's one of the struggles that comes out, especially during the times right now.
Yeah. Well, it's intensified, hasn't it, because of it, those emotions. How does somebody know they're being a people pleaser though? Because I'm sure some people don't know they're doing it on purpose.
Um, so with people pleasing, it's one is the higher, the more it kind of feels incongruent and inauthentic to yourself. Is if they didn't care what actions I took, would I still be doing that? If I wasn't intimidated by them, if I didn't if there was a risk of me, if there's a risk of me losing that person, would I still do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as soon as people pleasing comes in, people pleasing just knocks confidence, and it's one of the most unattractive things. It just erodes confidence in the background. It just
Yeah.
kills confidence. I know. I was even talking to my son about this, and I brought this up, and he's 12, and I said, "Man, there's such thing as people please." And he recognized it himself, and he goes, "Yeah, Dad, I am people please." I'm like, it's very natural. Everyone does it. There isn't a person I know who doesn't people please.
Hmm.
Okay, but it's a spectrum. Some people will do it more than others in
Yeah.
order to be liked, to be loved, to be seen, to be approved of.
Hmm.
So these are some of the reasons that we would go into people pleasing.
Yeah. And it's odd, isn't it? Because from one dynamic, if person A is people pleasing in a relationship and they've been doing it for 2 years, let's say, or 3 years or 5 years, all of a sudden they don't feel valued. They feel like they're lying to themselves. They feel like they're incongruent, as you say, and then they stop all of a sudden. And now this person's left confused, thinking, "Well, hang on, you've done this all the time for two. What's the sudden change? Why have you changed for? What's going on? What?" And it can cause a lot of insecurity in the relationship, really. So before it gets to that stage, I guess if somebody knows they're being a people pleaser by not feeling congruent or feel like they're lying to somebody, and that was a good thought, by the way, in regard to, well, if I would I do it in any way if this person wasn't here, and if the answer is no, then maybe you're being a people pleaser. So what would be the next step? I mean, in my head, I feel like I'm just dragging all the answers out of you. I need to do some work right now. In my head, I would probably speak to those closest to me and say, just out of curiosity, how often do you think that I've people pleased? I've recognised it myself, and then I go to my relationship and say, I think I'm trying to please you, and it's going against my actual core beliefs and values. I think I need a bit of help with this. Would that make sense, or is there another way?
Yeah. So one of the things, so people pleasing is when we lack, say, standards and
Ah,
boundaries. When we lack standards and when we lack boundaries, and we lack our own value.
mm,
I was thinking about boundaries, and I said, it's the value is in the boundary. The value of something lies in the boundary. For example, if you wanted I don't know, a Ferrari or a certain timepieces, you couldn't just go out and buy them. There are some certain Ferraris you just can't go and buy. Okay, you need to have this pre-requirements in order to buy the car. So these are strict boundaries, and they value that. And when we have these values too, and your values are, like for example, the last few months, I've really been building up solid boundaries and boundaries, and I've noticed that people are responding in a very different way, and responding in a different way, even with people I've known as well. So even if people I've known, you don't want to go and build a massive, like just have a write out your boundaries and then just put a massive wall there, especially with your partner. That doesn't work because they'll, like you said, they'll just jolt them, and they'll just send them into a panic frenzy as well, because they'll just feel unsafe about it. But what it'll be is for you two to have that conversation and say, hey, these things are important to me. These are my values. These are my standards. These are my non-negotiables.
mm.
And what I'm going to be doing is now I'm going to start implementing this in my life. It's not a reflection on you; it's a reflection on me.
That's amazing. Non-negotiables. Because I was going to ask, how do you create the boundaries and how do you implement them? Well, I think that you've hit the nail on the head. Non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm.
I, you know, for example, by the way, I love your non-negotiables to yourself, which are your seven-day things. I've seen you've seen you put it on your Instagram, guys. If you haven't seen it already, you want to check out Faisal's what he does. So it's 5 a.m. start. It's a cold shower. It's a journaling, and there's so many. I've forgotten them all, but there's so many, and I think that's a cool non-negotiable to yourself. So if you are in a relationship, maybe have a non-negotiable about that as well. Can I have it? Would it be all right if I have an example of it?
Yeah, for
Not
example,
from you,
so
not from you, but from it generally. It can be from you.
yeah, so I have several non-negotiables. So, for example, if you're single, when I'm I'm single. When I'm single, then my non-negotiables are that if I want to date someone, they have an open mind.
Yeah.
They're able to take feedback.
Nice.
And also give feedback, so that we can have an open dialogue about this. They value themselves. They themselves have boundaries and see themselves as a valuable person, an asset, rather than, hey, you're getting in a relationship with me. This is a scary thing, right? There is an unconscious part of us that says, thank you for getting in a relationship with me, because I don't value myself. This is done unconsciously. They don't say this, hey, you know what? Because they're like, oh my God, I got into a relationship. Thank God for that. I'm not sure when I'm going to find the next person.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So it's about, so for me, I'd rather be, by myself in order to, not compromise on some of my values. And my values, things like, family is important. They value family. They value openness, open communication. These are not the way a big red flag and non-negotiable for me is how they talk about other people. Okay, so how they talk about other people, if they talk ill of other people, they're moaning and bitching or whatever, I'm like, you are not, right? You're not for me and I'm not for you. That's a massive, that's like one of I think it's in my top 3.
I agree, dude. I think you must have been there as well when you're dating somebody, and it's the ex-boyfriend's fault, or it's the dad's fault, or it's your uncle's fault, it's the teacher's fault, it's your friend's fault. And it's like, well, hang about. There's one common denominator here.
Yeah,
and
that's the one. That's the one. It's always a common denominator here. Can you not see
that? It's crazy. But I love that.
God, funny you should say that. I was speaking to someone.
Yeah.
And this person was pretty successful in life as well. And they built. They were part of something huge in the UK, and very smart person. And and we were having a conversation, and they're saying, this is the problem. This is the problem. This is the problem. I'm like, there's a common denominator here, because all fingers are kind of like pointing at you. And you don't get it. And I said, well, that's the problem, because you don't get it. And I said, look, I understand. Sometimes we can't see, we can't see what's written. Was it Les Brown said this? He said, we can't see what's outside the box when we're inside the box.
True.
We can't see the writing outside the box when we're inside the box.
Yeah, that's good. Les Brown has some fantastic moments. So how do you get out of the box? How do you get out of the box?
You need people to help you see your blind spots. That's all it is. Just like the people that helped me see my blind spots, call me out, point out my stuff as well. I do the same for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. And just to comment on your feedback one there, take feedback. Be able to be mature enough to understand and take feedback. It's not like a critique. It's not like at the end of the day, you're like this. You're like, okay, so you snorted 3 times, and it's not like that. It's like, I noticed this, and it and then you explore and talk about it in a really calm, fashionable manner, like a respectful manner. And I think that's, taking feedback, because if I was to be honest with you, when I was growing up, I struggled with that. I thought it was criticism. I'm
Mhm.
feeling vulnerable right now. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's great that you can do that. I mean, especially for men as well, when they for men. So in male psychology, when they're unable to take feedback, is because they don't have enough masculine energy, and they have a wounded relationship with the masculine energy.
mm,
So they're unable to take that feedback because it's very point. It's like X, Y, and Z. It's very harsh.
yeah,
Feedback is very critical. It's very direct. It's very it's very intrusive.
mm,
It's very like masculine energy is very penetrating as well.
yeah, yeah,
And when you're strong enough, when you're powerful enough, as an individual, and then you can take feedback and say, okay, you know what, I listen, I hear it, I listen to you, I'm going to see what I can what I'm not kind of like seeing right now, and just take this feedback. And what we do is we kind of take feedback really personally. I do too. Sometimes I go, wow, that I really heard that. It really pains, and trust me, especially when you're a people pleaser, feedback is incredibly painful.
oh, well, I think that was my problem. I think that was one of my things. In fact, I was such a people pleaser in school that I didn't have a special group of friends. I bounced from one group to another, from the popular to the smokers to the musicians to the geeks. Love being friends with the geeks, by the way, or the nerds, because they were so smart and switched on. I actually, had quite a lot of banter with them, clever conversation. But I was not flirting, but I was dipping between the ones, always looking for that acceptance. And I think that was just like I don't know where that came from, because I like to say that my mom and dad loved me so much and did the best they can. They loved to give me so much love. And I don't know, maybe I was seeking more. Maybe it was what my brain was used to and I'm familiar with. And when I didn't get it from school, it was almost threatening to me, my survival. And I wanted to fit in more. Whereas what I teach is to kids is to not fit in. I want you to, fit out and be your own person.
Yeah, absolutely. And people pleasing comes from evolution psychology, because if you went back, a couple 100,000 years ago, because tribes are the only thing that we knew. Over hundreds and thousands of years, tribes is the only thing we knew. And if we didn't say fit in with the tribe, if we didn't look after the tribe, please the tribe, seek their approval, seek their guidance, then we're likely to be rejected from the tribe. So those who so how evolution psychology works is that if something happens too many times and something that doesn't work won't happen too many times because it'll be killed off. So for example, if you had a tribe and then somebody kept on walking off from that tribe, so for example, there was a family, they gave birth to the kids, and the parent would then, as they grew up, they would go and go out the tribe, and then if they're out the tribe, survival is pretty much impossible. So what would happen is over time, evolution would say, well, if that gene would no longer be able to survive anymore because it just keeps dying off, and then they won't be able to reproduce. There won't be any more of them left. So what's left is the one that keeps being able to evolve, keeps being able to continue. So evolution psychology is always looking at finding out, how can I continue this? What are the patterns that work and what are the patterns that don't work? And the patterns that don't work are unable to exist anymore because they're either dead or malfunction or something happens.
Yeah.
So this is where people pleasing comes in, because it's very much ingrained in us. Like manipulation we were talking about is very much hardwired in us. Evolution, tribal is hardwired in us. Yeah. There's a lot of things that are really hardwired, and there's nothing we can do about it other than become more conscious about it and know what impact it's having.
Yeah. That just makes an awful lot of sense, because it's almost like hunter-gatherer days. We're walking behind the leader, the alpha, whatever you want to call him or her. And if we stray from the path for a moment, we could have been eaten by a poison snake or something. I don't know. And then obviously, I didn't think of it that way in regard to that gene pool or that gene will just get done, finished. So
Yeah.
it's almost as if there's the exploratory gene, or the, go off and do it by yourself gene. It's just been like, nope, it's been killed off because
Yeah, because they haven't come back.
yeah, because they come back.
It's good. It hasn't come back, so therefore it won't continue to survive because there's not many of them left.
Yeah, yeah,
As it's so evolution just it just keeps finding paths
yeah.
to just continue.
Which is strange, because this day and age, I would say there's been a huge boom in entrepreneurship. You look at your Gary V's, you look at your Grant Cardones, and your Russell Brunsons and Robbins, and and I don't know, is there been a dormant gene, a hidden gene that's just suddenly been just ignited? Not for everybody, but I know for me, for example, I mean, my blueprint, dude, was to be a PE teacher in the town that I lived for all my life, and I achieved that goal, and I'm like, oh, is that it? I mean, I should be doing that. I mean, when I was 15, that's what I had planned: be a teacher, town I live, boom, boom, boom. But I wanted more, and it's like, where did that come from? Like, how did that suddenly get woken up or reignited or something? Masculine energy? I don't know.
Well, the thing is, the masculine energy is always looking for perfection. Okay, the masculine energy is looking for perfection because the masculine energy is all about achievement, to do something.
Yeah.
So the more perfectionist you are, the more you're in the masculine range. Women can be in that part too.
Yeah.
And because what the masculine is trying to do is trying to achieve something and then bring something to an end. When something has ended, it no longer exists, so therefore it's achieved, done. And then the masculine energy wants to go to nothingness.
Okay.
It wants to go to nothingness. So it wants to achieve, compete, do something, and then wants to have an end goal. Now, if you look at a lot of things that revolve around the male world, sports, what does sports have? Again, it has competition, right?
Prowess.
And there's an achievement, someone wins, and then there's an end result. Notice that pattern.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a competition, there's usually a couple of teams, you're competing against someone, and then the second part is that you have a result. There's winners or losers, or win or loss, and then there's nothing left afterwards. The game is finished. Then it's on the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. And same with if you listen to people who are in masculine language or masculine state. When they're having a conversation, the conversation is, "How was your day? Yeah, good. How was yours? Yeah, good." Again, there's two patterns in that one. You've asked how their day was. Okay. Second was, they've given you the information and they've brought it to an end.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, good.
Which is why some people, when they come home, people in the masculine want to come home and they want to do nothing. They want to vegetate, right? They want to zone out. They want to get to their only achievement and get to nothingness.
Yeah.
They want to get to absolute nothingness. Now, here's a really awesome experiment. You can do, all the stuff I teach about, I'm saying experiment, go and try it out, because I've tried this out 100 times. I even actually try out experiments in workshops. And when I'm speaking, I'm like, try this experiment, see for yourself. Check this theory out, see what's happening. Now, for example, have you ever noticed, right, when, when guys kind of like get together, the conversation is a little bit stale. It's like, yeah, how are you doing? They'll have that. As soon as the alcohol starts coming in, and it starts, at 1 pint, 2 pints, have you noticed how the conversation changes? How loud they get, how friendly they get. "I love you, man." All of that happens, right? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So what's happening is they're going away from masculine energy and they're going more towards feminine energy. Because they're going to, I know some people, they're really quiet, but when they start having a drink and it starts, they start relaxing more, and they kind of go into more life energy, they just talk and connect and connect. And if you look at how most feminine people connect, and I want to give you an example of two women, because that's where you can find the majority of the feminine energy, you'll notice that they will just carry on talking. It's like continuous. It's like a continuous flow to it. And you'll also note, right? Just observe. I would say, look, make notes. And then if you can make notes, right, and you can say, was there continuity? Did the conversation always continue? Did it go into a logical flow? And the chances are, I'm not saying 100%, but I'm saying the chances are there'll be a lot of interruptions in the continuity, and there'll be a lot of times it won't follow a logical flow.
Okay.
Right. So when you're in feminine, it's gonna flow. There's not gonna be any logic to it. It just flows. When you're in your masculine. So for example, when you go on a date, right? A date night is an awesome example. And I'll give you an example of this, right? So you're on a date night, and and she's relaxed with you. She'll talk, and she's having a conversation. So she's expressing, and she's going in conversation, and you start talking, and you're having this conversation. And I've noticed this, and I see this with guys, and I do it as well. It's so funny, right? So you're having this conversation, and then you might get interrupted, or something might come up and interrupt that conversation. What guys tend to do, or what the master tends to do, is go back exactly at that point and then continue. Right? They may. I've observed conversation where there was like 2 or 3 times, even 3 interruptions, but the guy just continued to pick up exactly. Just like, I'm not interested anymore.
Is that what it is? They just like change the conversation.
It just flow.
Yeah.
Here's an example. Imagine you're on a roller coaster ride, right? So you're on a roller coaster ride, and you're on one. Just it just flows like this. That's kind of boring, right?
Yeah.
So the roller coaster ride that goes up and down, and it's different. And 1 minute you're talking about this, and the next you talk about that. That's stimulating all the emotions.
That's what a date should be like.
Just try it out. Just try all these experiments out.
I will. The next time on a date, A, I'm going to be in trouble, and B, I'm going to try that one out. That's really
absolutely.
Well, it explains what you said about the masculine energy. It's just like, here's a thing, here's a there, and then it's an end. Boom. They want to feel like they feel, and it's really funny you say, because that's what I'm like. I'm like, well, we'll go back to what I was talking about. Okay, when I finished, now I'm finished. Now you can have your say. And does that come across as controlling, or is that just masculine and ego?
Well, there's an element of ego. There's an element of I need closure. I need completion. So like I need to bring that to an end. It's like watching a football match or something, and it's cut off, and what happened?
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll put on something else. Yeah. No, I want to know what the result is. It hasn't finished, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like watching something and halfway it's cut off.
Yeah.
You're like, okay. So there is an absolute part, but then it gets to a controlling part where you're unable to be flexible about it.
Okay.
So when you're unable to be flexible about it, and then you want that struggle, that power struggle of like, I really want to come back and prove that point, make sure I'm heard, make sure this is important. And it's that ego part where it's like, okay, cool, I need to, when we start using the word internally, I need to, rather than, is it our need, our relationship need, does it serve us? And sometimes there is your boundary and your standard, and that needs to be, you need to uphold that.
Yeah.
Really uphold that. I'm like, there are times where, no, this is important. And that's non-negotiable. I'm not going to negotiate on this. And that's where I stand on that. Doesn't mean I'm not open to learning from something, but my non-negotiables are my non-negotiables, like my morning routine.
Yeah.
Morning routine, it's non-negotiable. If I'm with my kids, anything that's happening in my life, I go back to it as much as I can. Like this morning, I was up at 3 o'clock this morning. I don't know why, but I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm exhausted. I'm like, okay, I've only had like a few hours of sleep. But I'm like, I'm not negotiating on my morning routine.
Mm.
You know, I'm not, when we start building the fact that when we start negotiating and dropping our standards, our quality, that's when we start having resentment build up. And when we have that resentment build up, then we start
Yeah.
cracking power struggle on that.
Do you obviously you got two wicked kids. Um, do you think that having them in your life um, makes you solidify those standards as a role model perspective?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh, so much. I mean, one of the things that's taught me during lockdown is one being having patience. Second thing is being grounded like anything.
Mm.
And one of the things I've realized, I think, in the last few months is how much every human being is looking for groundedness.
Yeah.
That's all we look for. And the way I was describing it, so when I teach every Tuesday in my men's work. And you know the picture behind you? So
Yeah.
yeah. So can you imagine walking on that bridge, walking on that path?
I would love it.
Okay. Yeah. So imagine walking on that. It's rickety, it's a bit fragile, and there's nothing to hold on to the side.
Yeah.
Okay, so the sides are taken away.
Whoa. What about now?
Right? The sides are taken away, and you're like, I don't know, amongst two mountains, and the sides are taken. And that's what happens when we start losing, when we start feeling unsafe.
Yeah.
And what we do is when we're unsafe, we're ungrounded. And what we're looking for is to hold on to something to ground ourselves. So
Okay.
imagine just walking along that. And I noticed that, you know, children look for that. Your partner will look for that, is that grounded being. And I realized I'm going to do a live on this and a video on this as well. When I've kind of like got all my thoughts together on this.
Mm.
We all feel unsafe, we all feel ungrounded, but men kind of display it in a certain way. And I've noticed that women, not all, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying majority display it in a certain way. And the way men tend to display, and I caught myself doing this, the way men kind of display uncertainty when they feel unsafe is usually through anger. Through anger and expression, that's the way they kind of manage or mismanage in a way, handle that situation. Whereas what I've noticed, and I was reading about this from a psychologist as well, women can go inwards. You know, when they're feeling unsafe, they kind of go inward, or they'll start to or overconnect to seek, you know, to hold on to something. But whereas guys will go into they feel shame, they don't know what's going on, they're feeling unsafe, and they're just trying to find a tight rope just to hold on to, so they can then get secure.
Mm. Wow. That's very true, and I'd resonate with the anger thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as I'd like to say that for some reason it takes me when I don't really get angry at all, really, but it's like, and people can be poking me. I'm just like, whatever, it's fine. But you know, and I know you appreciate this as well. When enough is enough, enough is enough, and it's hard for me to come back down again. Um, Whether it's the masculine energy, whether it's ego, whether it's just because it's maybe it's unresolved emotions from the whole build up. I don't know, but afterwards, I do always strive when I've completely settled, which could even take a day. Gosh, to have accountability for what I may have said. And that's really important from like a new age male perspective in my eyes. But I completely hear what you're saying in regard to anger. Yeah, absolutely. When we don't feel grounded, it can be expressed as anger. No, not every male, but maybe
Yeah,
maybe the majority.
yeah, majority, and that's our mechanism of dealing with it.
Yes.
You know, it's our mechanism. It's our kind of like coping mechanism.
Mm.
We're going to anger, then can go into rage as well. And I catch myself doing that as well, and it's very, that's where we express. It doesn't mean, um, you know, women don't get angry; they get angry too. They express in that way as well. So there's a lot of ways that they can express, say, uncertainty and unsafe.
Mm.
When women are usually unsafe, they will make comments, real challenging comments to men. Is they want to see how strong you are. Can I push this guy over? Is he gonna be pushed over? Can I? There's a saying, if I can fuck him over, the world can fuck him over.
Okay, I've heard that saying, but I like it.
Yeah. So if I can push him, that means somebody else can push him.
So, has he failed the test?
Yeah, that's failing the test.
Yeah.
And so when Guy fails that test, in her own kind of instinctual responses to, well, she kind of unconsciously says, I can't trust this man. Would he be able to pass, other people's tests? Or would he get pushed around with other people? Would he get, knocked around with other people? So that's kind of like where, one of the exercises that we do as men, and I do with my men as well, is to build that strength to say, sometimes, we are going to be pushed in life. We are going to be challenged in life, and bring that integrity and honesty to that. And as soon as there is integrity and honesty in that, that's where there's clarity. When we're people pleasing, in people pleasing, there's no integrity. There is no integrity. It's all manipulation.
Manipulation.
People pleasing is manipulation.
Yeah.
And when we're in that part, then we can really have that struggle because there's no groundedness, there's no truth.
Wow. And I've learned something today in regard to people pleasing is a manipulation. You're changing your natural form to suit those of another to fit in. So that's a huge one. That's a huge one for me.
It's like the one you said, I went from different groups to the, the sporty group to the geek group, and then you were blending in. So what's happening is when you're going to so many different groups and you're thinking, well, I'm not going to trust you because you're going to go to the group and you might reveal something about this group, or you might give away something, or you might give away some information. So therefore, people pleasing is an unconscious response that we have, and we don't trust that person. And it's like if you're people pleaser, really sweet people, really, I'm not talking about, there are some genuinely nice people, I know that, but if you're excessively in something, then it's red flag for me.
Yeah.
If you're unable to really express yourself, if you can't hold boundaries and you don't have that discipline to uphold boundaries, you're going to start people pleasing, and people pleasing is distrustful, it's manipulation.
It is.
And we all do it. I'm saying we all freaking do it. I've done people pleasing all my life. That's when I realized enough is enough, and I need to stop people pleasing. And I realized that people pleasing comes from something called codependency and enmeshment as well. So these are all kind of like all intertwined as well. So evolution psychology, yeah. So we got evolution psychology, codependency, enmeshment. These are all having a huge part in our psychology, which is just holding us, to that part where we start people pleasing.
So measurement in regard to, would that be like having a pretty girl on a status thing, or is that something different?
So putting someone on a pedestal. So like usually putting it, both sides do it, men and women, put each other on a pedestal. That is people pleasing, because what you're going to do is, I want to be able to win her heart or win his heart. And I will do anything I will manipulate unconsciously in order to get that result. Even if it means that, even if it's not serving for them. You know, even if it's not serving for them, I will want to get that result.
Mm. Mm.
So when you put somebody on a pedestal, is one, you have no your own boundaries, your own stuff, which is, I've done that a lot, so much of my life. People pleasing is something that I really struggled with because I was afraid to express, afraid to express what I wanted because I was afraid of losing maybe a connection or interaction or something. Because we people please in order because we're afraid of a loss that can occur.
Mm. I think that's really important. Really, it's that sacrifice needs to be made over the sacrifice of losing yourself. Mm-hmm. And I've actually failed to ask people to write down questions. That somebody here called Jibble Bubbles has wrote, "I'm the biggest people pleaser ever. Something I have no idea how to change. I've also tried to place boundaries in place." So we've had a huge discussion about this throughout. But this is perfect because now we can have a bit of a sum up. So how do you sum up the talk, dude?
Okay, so regarding specifically that question, let's finish that question.
Yes, go for it. This is the
massive one. So people pleasing is a lot to do with codependency and enmeshment. That means that I value somebody else's opinion more than mine, and I'm afraid of the consequences, that I might be rejected, I might be told off. So these are things that I was worried about when I was people pleasing. Is I don't want to be told off. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to share an opinion because it may displease you, or you might think it's horrible, or you might think poor of me or less of me if I wanted to share something, what I actually was feeling inside. So what I would do is I would before going into agreement, like, yeah, I'll go along with things, just to make it non-easy, make it easier. And I would therefore wanted to always check in with, are you okay? Is this what you want? Rather than saying, well, hang on a minute, no, I don't agree with that opinion, or I don't agree with this, or I don't agree with that. So I would always be, I think Dr. Robert Glover called it, like a Teflon man. Just be whatever it is, you slide off it, and you just go along with that.
Teflon man, that's a good analogy.
And so the second part was the question is how do you start changing that?
Yeah.
And the thing with boundaries is, the thing with any kind of habit is it has to be done consistently.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, when you mention my habits, if you look on my Instagram, you can see my habits are pretty long.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't start off like that. They started off with like, a really small habit, like 2 years ago, like having a normal shower, then ending with a cold shower. It's a cold shower. And then I added another habit. If you want to make big changes in the world, you must be able to execute the small changes consistently and frequently, consistently every time. So if you want to make boundaries, you've got to be able to do the small habits consistently. It's the small habits that allow you to do the big things.
Yeah.
And boundaries are a pretty big thing. So one of those things is, having self-awareness. I'm people pleasing. Is this my opinion or is this other person's opinion? If this person didn't care how I felt or was okay to it, what would I be saying? And then saying, okay, well, actually, what you think about what I'm about to say is your responsibility, not mine. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to, let's take a relationship, for example, if you're single or something, and this kind of affected me for a while.
By the way, we've got 30 seconds left.
Oh, okay. So if I wanted to stay, for example, if I wanted an X type of relationship, I wouldn't say it because I'd be upset, or I'd be upset because they'll get upset, and I don't want to get upset.
Dude, that was a good polish off. My gosh, you can handle the pressure.
You can stay grounded.
Yeah, you're grounded, bro. Mate, that was awesome. As always, but man, always a pleasure. Next one, next month.
Let's do one next month.
Cool. All right. Mate, I really appreciate your time and all of your effort
Thank you,
and
brother.
all your knowledge. It's been beautiful. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, there. All right, stay